This is Robert Redfern, and this is my Thursday newsletter for Natural Healthy News. Today I'm talking about risks. I'm trying to put in context the risk of premature death and showing you that most things are under your control statistically. And if we compare it against COVID-19, which is the big scary thing being put out at the moment, then it might help you to understand that it's not really a problem in your life, except that the media would like you to think so. So I want to put your mind at rest, and anybody who's following me must think outside the box. So you have to think a little bit differently than the rest of the population, otherwise you're going to go crazy, the same as the rest of the population is. So there's all sorts of risks in life. Even being born was a risk. Something could go wrong. The first few months of life is a greater risk. Standing on your own 2 feet, learning to swim. As you get older, you're allowed to go out on your own, and that's a risk. Even in your teens, the risk from death and injury don't go away and may actually increase, especially for young men. I'll tell you about that in a little while. The good news is that in Western countries, the risk of premature death of infants under 1 year has fallen from around about 60% from 1980 to 2016, which is really, really nice to hear. That's a big drop, 60%. The risk of death of all children, 1 to 19, also fell dramatically from 1980 to 2016. Except the 15 to 19 year deaths started to rise again after 2013 and are still rising. You know, that needs to be addressed. I know that depression has become a major problem. The death rates for those under 1 is still too high compared to children in any other age group. And it's a particular interest of mine, and I cover this in my Fertility ebook. And I cover what you can do to increase fertility and the healthy mother and healthy baby in the womb and the first year of life. So in the newsletter I've got a link to download the fertility book, so if you know any parents that are wanting to have a baby, then they really should start planning before conception, not after conception. There are some important nutrients that should be taken at the point of conception. So the big risks as we age is naturally we start to increase our risk of death because we're getting closer to the end of days, but there's a long way to go. But we put ourselves at greater risk by our lifestyle, and you know that I say this every week, it's lifestyle, lifestyle, lifestyle. There are some factors that can increase the risk of premature death, and being a male, believe it or not, in that 15 to 19 age group, you're twice as likely to die at risk of death compared to a female. And it could be that young males are a little bit crazy, but also they're more subject to depression than females. Smoking, alcohol, pharmaceutical drugs, consuming junk food and highly processed foods, not consuming sufficient fresh foods, not supplementing essential missing nutrients that are not in the food anymore, too much sitting, not enough walking, too much sitting and, not drinking enough pure water, not getting enough rest and sleep. There's lots of things in my list in the newsletter. They all are a risk factor for premature death. But as I said, life is a risk, and if you think about it carefully and plan carefully, then you can avoid most of the risks that I've just mentioned there. Just takes a little bit of intelligent planning. I'm not going to stop talking about premature death and how it's caused by lifestyle, because that's my life. This is what I do. I help people to avoid premature death and clear up disease and live the life that I'm living at age 74. I've just finished my exercising now, that's why I'm a little bit hot and flushed. But anyway, I've got some tables in the newsletter which you can look at, and the tables are taken from the mess of official figures. It's awful trying to get the real figures, but just a brief chart shows that the major cause of death in the world, premature death, is heart disease and strokes, 15 million every year. Lung disease, respiratory diseases, tuberculosis, 7 million people died throughout the world. Diabetes, 1.7 million. Alzheimer's, 1.7 million. And COVID-19, 650,000. Same as the flu, yearly flu. Now, I know this is the first year for this 650,000, but history shows that such pandemics always tail off in the second year. That is if they will let it, because they're locking down everybody, trying to stop it spreading and clearing up naturally as it does. But still, I'm pretty sure that 650,000 is the highest we'll see. So it's no different than the flu, and many, many times less than heart disease. The heart disease and lung disease and diabetes and Alzheimer's, those are the things that you really, really need to fear, and hope that fear will get you into looking after your lifestyle, and with a little bit of help. That's why you're here. So it's lifestyle factors. It's in the list that I said about diet and all the rest of it. That's what causes heart disease. That's what causes lung disease. And just by changing your lifestyle. But of course, actually, you won't get COVID-19 if you change your lifestyle as well. You won't get flu if you change your lifestyle. It's as simple as that, because you have to be deficient in certain nutrients to get these conditions. Don't get what anybody says. I know for a fact, I can tell by the number of people who didn't get it in the 100,000 people that follow me. So, and that people would be telling me, and I asked people to contact me. So my prediction that the world figures for deaths by cause for 2020 will be about the same as 2017. In other words, nothing really new has happened. You have been led to believe that COVID-19 is a major risk factor. It's all a plan to get everybody vaccinated in the world, and vaccinated. In fact, it's impossible to get a vaccination out within years. It takes years to test it properly to find out the side effects, of the vaccination and the side effects of the long-term use. But they're trying to rush it out. Anyway, that's our risk. The risk is the Gates gang and the vaccine. So, anyway, without all that, the age 0 to 60, the risk is almost zero, unless the person has a serious health condition. So, unless you've got a serious health condition, which you shouldn't do if you're following my plan, then you have a zero risk of COVID-19 and all these other things, or anything for that matter. But there are always people who are not following a healthy lifestyle plan, and there's nothing can be done. Even they are not a great risk from 0 to 60. It's only, of course, over 65, 70, 80, 90 that the numbers start to increase. And even then, they're not, I've got the figures all for you on these charts. This is an interesting thing. In Spain, all those aged over 65 are recommended to have a vaccine against the flu. Happens in the UK, happens in the USA, I'm sure. However, a study was done following up the people that had the flu vaccination, and 85% of the people that died from COVID-19 had a flu vaccine in the previous 6 months. Now, it doesn't have to be a straightforward correlation, because the people might have been at risk anyway. But it also shows that it also would have possibly reduced their immune system or depleted their immune system. In fact, many people tell me that when they had a flu vaccine, they actually got the flu. So, not very nice to have the flu vaccine. Get healthy instead. And then I've not had a flu vaccine ever. I'm 74, super fit, super healthy. But there again, I've followed my health plan for the last 20 years, from age 54 to 74, which is that critical time. But you can still do it anytime, you know what I mean, still get going. So I'm almost begging you to please give me some feedback. If I'm wrong on this coronavirus, that you've been following my plan and you got it, you know, I would like to hear from you. Robert@naturalhealthynews.com. It's in the newsletter, but please email me and let me know. Give me some feedback on this. It's really important. So, to be clear, I'm not addressing those at risk who don't follow my plan, because they're risking their future anyway. Anybody not following my plan is at risk. It's obvious they're at risk if they're not following. It doesn't have to be my plan. You can get the same, as long as you're following the plan that I recommend. It doesn't matter whose plan it is, as long as it's the same plan. Then you're not at risk. Problem is, the Gates gang have terrorised the world and paid off the corporate media. So everybody's frightened. I won't say frightened to death, because that's not a nice thing to say, but the BBC and social media, they are just terrorising the world, blocking doctors that are trying to tell the truth about this, and it's getting worse. It's not getting better, I thought, with all the publicity that they're blocking doctors coming on YouTube and Facebook to tell the truth about what's happening. You would have thought they would have been embarrassed and stopped blocking them, but no, they're doubling down on it. The world economy is in ruins, no matter who is telling the truth, and you know, that's not going to help the matters, because I read from scientists that to put the world into a financial depression will actually increase the death rate anyway, because people commit suicide and also can't afford food. And I'm not just talking about in our first world countries, I'm talking about in the third world countries especially, because this is hitting them as well. So I also have for those who want to see the disease figures in their own country, I've put a link there which shows all you do is choose your condition and click your country, and you can see the risk in your country. But that's just for your interest, because I don't consider it a risk if you're following the plan. So it's a short and sweet now, because there's a lot of detail in there which I'm not going to just read through all the time. But to get healthy, you have to use my list of risks, exclude them one by one, and increase your life expectancy and just lower your risk of premature death. You can start with your diet and then carry on with supplementing some key missing nutrients. The very, very basis of all health is my active life. I say my active life because nothing else available in the world has 130 nutrients, all the critical nutrients, not in the highest amount, but certainly enough to make a difference to anybody, whether it's a child, a baby, in fact, or a 90-year-old or a 100-year-old. Of course, the older you are, the more at risk you are, the more you need to take. But an Active Life bottle will last you 6 months on a real budget. And if you're at risk and you can afford it, it will only last you a month. So you really, really need to at least consider that. Look at the other things in the newsletter and my previous letters. I hope you scroll to the bottom of my newsletters, excuse me, and see the different... should have been drinking water all the way along. And see the different plans that you can have for all the different conditions. And of course, you know that you can download my ebook from naturalhealthynews.com and cover any condition, step-by-step plan all the way through. And that's it from me in hot, sunny Spain, where I shouldn't be exercising, but I always keep going with my exercises. Thank you very much, and see you soon. Bye.